This is Andy Purewal, Boxing Social in association with Betfred. I am joined by Don Charles over Zoom. Don, firstly, how are you? It's been a while since we last caught up.
That's correct. Yeah, I've been very well, bogged down with work, and you know how it is. The show must go on.
100%. And obviously, boxing is a relentless sport. Don, before we do come on to some obvious kind of conversations, let's just start off with yourself. How's everything looking in your gym? And obviously, how's George?
George is very, very good. As you know, he's coming off the back of a surprise loss early in his career. So it's a lesson learned. I won't go into details. Obviously, there's always a reason for anything. You have to stand and be accountable, which he has, and going to try and amend what mistakes he may have made in terms to the approach to the fight. So yeah, all is good with him.
I mean, when will we expect to see George back out? And just from hearing you talk, is the Sokolovsky rematch something which you've discussed?
Most definitely, it's been discussed. Whether it's his next fight remains to be seen. I don't believe it will be. He is due out in July, early July.
Obviously, just away from George, Don, we saw a great London fight last weekend between Joshua Buatsi and Craig Richards. I just want to go back to it and get your thoughts and reflections. What did you make of it?
Yeah, to be quite frank, although I'm a boxing fan, I actually missed that fight. I was working. I had one of my heavyweights was fight in Watford Leisure Centre. Tony Pill, Young Lions Promotions. And it was his first six-rounder, my heavyweight, Harry Armstrong. He won on points. So, and there's a few other lads that was fighting from the Pug Gym, Taisi, Callagher, and a few other guys. Malik made his debut on that show also. He got first-round stoppage, which is, yeah, it was a really good night. So basically, I was occupied working on that show. Then I didn't watch the Boise Richards fight. But obviously, I know the result. I've seen clips of a few of the rounds, but I haven't actually watched the entire fight. I will do in due course.
That's all good, Don. Obviously, as you mentioned, you was busy yourself last weekend, and from the sounds of it, a successful one. What did you take away from it?
From the show?
From your show, yeah, the one with your fighters on it.
Oh, basically the wins, is the W's. It's all about the W's. And Tony Pills, I'm actually going to recommend that you speak to this young man. He's a manager, trainer, and a promoter. I believe that was his third promotional show. It's a new outfit, and he's doing remarkably very, very well. And yeah, it's just like another independent promoter, giving all the fighters who wouldn't otherwise get the chance to go on big shows. So these small hall show promoters, I give them the opportunity to further their career and rack up the fight numbers.
We'll definitely try to arrange that, Don, through your help there. But obviously moving forwards, obviously on limited time with yourself, so you're a busy man. So we get your thoughts on kind of a few different things in boxing. Start off with the heavyweight division. Your old charge, Derek Chisora, seems set to return in July, and Kownacki seems to be the front runner for that fight. Just get your thoughts on that bout if that one gets rubber stamped.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's been a few names thrown around. Although I don't train Derek anymore, as you know, but there's obviously I watch what's going on demographically, what's going on with the heavyweight division. I'm always very interested. Yeah, there's been a few names thrown around, and yeah, it's a good fight. Kownacki, who's coming off the back of two losses, if I'm right, against Robert Helenius, whom Derek Chisora beat many years ago, in my opinion. We beat Robert Helenius in Helsinki. So he got those two victories, back-to-back victories over Kownacki. So in terms of styles, it's quite a clash of styles, and because they both come forward fighting. If that fight was to get made, if that is who Derek is fighting next, then yeah, it's going to be a very interesting fight, you know. And also, coincidentally, Derek is coming off the back of two losses himself against Joseph Parker. I don't believe he lost the first fight against Joseph Parker, but he lost the second one. It was more conclusive. Yeah, so two fighters coming off the back of two losses each, and two fighters whom, like I said, stylistically, it's going to be a head-on collision, in my opinion. It's going to be a very good fight if they were to fight. I'm not sure how definite that fight is. If it is that the fight, then yeah, I'll definitely be excited to be watching it.
I know how much you still care for Derek because of your past relationship together. And I remember speaking to you about the potential Deontay Wilder fight when Eddie Hearn was mentioning that, and you certainly didn't mince your words. You wasn't a fan of potentially seeing Deontay and Derek in the ring. What do you make of Kownacki? Is it something you're more happier with to see Derek versus Kownacki?
Most definitely. It's all about risks. It's obviously a much lower risk, especially Derek at this point in his career. It's a lower risk. The rewards are pretty high, I should imagine. I think Kownacki is quite highly ranked with the various governing bodies, and he has suffered those two setbacks with, against Robert Helenius. And Derek, where he's at his point of his career, yeah, like I said, it's a lower risk in terms of if you're comparing that to Derek facing somebody like Deontay Wilder, who's only ever lost to one man 3 times or 2.5 times against Fury. So yeah, I'll be much happier seeing Derek getting in with somebody like that, who's also coming off back of a loss. So it's all about momentum, isn't it? So I believe Derek will be meeting Kownacki at the right time, because the momentum Kownacki had prior to his 2 defeats. Let's see what type of fighter he, in terms of his comeback. And I'll be honest with you, that's a hard comeback for Kownacki to be facing Derek Chisora, who, like I said, Usyk only just about beat Chisora, you know. So Kownacki, what a fight to come back to if that is the fight that his promoters have opted to go for. So yeah, that's it. It'll be very interesting. I'll be watching closely.
Don, as we mentioned earlier on, we mentioned Deontay Wilder. He's obviously confirmed he's going to be returning to the sport recently. I was going to get your thoughts. Are you happy with that? Are you kind of glad that we will see the Bronze Bomber return?
Am I happy? I'm ecstatic. Yeah, because it would be a sad if he were to have hung up his gloves, because, like I said, he's only ever lost to one man 3 times, but on the papers he drew the first fight and lost the 2 following fights against Fury. So when he's gone back, gone home, licked his wounds, accepted, you know, because acceptance is a way of cure. He's gone home, reflected, and thought, okay, I got beaten by the better man, because initially he was in denial that Fury had beaten him. So, like I said, in anything in life, you cannot heal unless you've accepted that you either have a problem or you weren't good enough. Yeah, Deontay's a very good fighter, you know, a very good fighter. His record speaks for itself. Like I said, he would have gone home. Time is a healer, you know, time. Obviously, he's had time to chill out with his family, looked at himself in the mirror and say, you know what? Is this how I want it to end? Probably not. He doesn't want to be remembered as a guy who lost fights to the best heavyweight in the world right now. And then you call it a day. I mean, even if he did turn around and say, that's enough for me, then obviously we have to respect everybody's wish if they wish to retire. In this case, he's opted to come back. Yeah, I'm excited about it. And boxing fans should be excited by this news. I mean, there's so many heavyweights out there currently that it'll be a good matchup for Wilder.
Donna, on that front, the name which I've seen people suggest is Dillian Whyte. What would you make of a potential fight between Deontay and Dillian?
Well, that is a mouth-watering prospect to fight, and wouldn't it be brilliant? I don't believe this will be the case that it will be Deontay's first fight back against Dillian Whyte, and I don't believe it should be Dillian's first fight back after the loss. They've both come out of the back of losses. So guess what? The common denominator is Tyson Fury. It would be in an ideal situation. It would be good for them to fight next. Don't have any other fights. Dillian Whyte to fight Deontay Wilder. But if you're trying to look at it logically, maybe, and there were proper both devastating losses, yeah, by KO, Deontay Wilder, Fury inflicted on him, and by KO, Dillian Whyte against Fury. So, you know, in an ideal world, for a bloodthirsty fan, that would be a fight to make. But for their careers, if I was advising both parties, I would say have a tune-up, then both come through their tune-ups, then yeah, make that fight.
Don, what did you make of Tyson's win against Dillian Whyte? And what did you make of Dillian's approach and his tactics?
Do you know, Floyd May was, is it father or his uncle that alluded that people don't know, most people don't know shit about boxing. Yeah, and it's so true. Right. Dillian gets knocked out by Fury, right? But what people choose to ignore is what was happening prior to that stoppage. Dillian Whyte, in my opinion, and his team had a very good game plan. It's very easy the easiest thing in this world is to be a critic, yeah? And everybody's an expert suddenly, okay? So from a trainer's eye, me looking at that, yeah? Dillian Whyte, up to the point of the stoppage, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, was doing very good, yeah? He came out in the first round as a southpaw, which through me, I'm sure it threw Tyson, I'm sure it threw everybody. And he was actually very successful in that southpaw stance. And I believe I scored, I was working for a network on that show, on that fight. And I scored the first round to Dillian Whyte because he initiated, he took initiative, came forward, and Fury looked very concerned, okay? Right, how long would Dillian Whyte stay southpaw? I didn't think he would stay southpaw for long because that's not his normal stance, yeah? And I was interested to see when Fury started hitting him back in his, whilst he was in that southpaw position stance, how he would react. Not very well, so he switched back in the second round. Up to the point, for the first 3 rounds, for instance, he was stalking Fury, stalking him, yeah? He had Fury on his back foot. Obviously, Fury was collecting information, what we call data, yeah? Before he started then putting his own game plan, him and Sugar, on Dillian. So up to that point of Dillian getting beaten, he, in my opinion, they had a good game plan. It was shooting to the body, jabbing to the body, shooting power hand to the body. You know, he took initiative and he went forward. And I believe their game plan, and he was cutting off the ring really well. And people, to my surprise, after the defeat, started criticizing it, said, oh, it was a shit game plan. It wasn't, because it's easy to criticize. If all those people who were criticizing were given the same job to prepare a boxer to fight the most awkward heavyweight for a very long time, the name of Fury, people don't realize how hard it is to prepare for this guy. Prior to the fight, I made a prediction, and I said the problem is preparing against Fury is that this guy, Fury, has the ability to tear your game plan up into pieces, throw it up in your face, and there's nothing you can do about it. I did say that, and that's exactly what happened.
How did you actually score it then, Don? Up until the point of a stoppage, how did you see the fight?
Well, like I said, although Dillian was the one pressing the fight initially for the first 3 rounds, I scored the first round to Dillian Whyte when he was in the southpaw stance. If my memory serves me right, nothing much happened in the second because there was hardly any punches thrown initially because Fury was just backing away, collecting data, backing away. Fury didn't start imposing himself to round 4. So for the first round, I scored to the Dillian Whyte. Second round, if you call it a draw, if my memory serves me right. Third round, nothing much happened either. So I think Fury started coming into it from the round 3. Then from round 4, he took charge. And I believe, was it round 5 or 6 the fight was concluded?
6.
Round 6, the fight was concluded, yeah. So not much happening around 3, if I remember right. And then from, like I said, round 4, Fury started, okay, I'm gonna start putting my own thing on, my own game plan. He started going into it. And then round 5, you saw Dylan unraveling. Then the conclusion came into the round 6 when he walked onto that devastating uppercut, because Fury by now had collected enough data.
Don, for you, has Tyson officially retired?
Again, it's one of those teasers. I don't blame him if it would be, how can I put it? I'll be as a fan, obviously, I'll be very disappointed if it's retired, if this is it. I don't believe this is it. I believe he will take, quite rightly so, take some time off, spend some time with his family, because he's obviously been away from home for long, long periods. All the 3 fights with Deontay Wilder's constantly in America for the first 2, preparing. And I believe the 3rd one he prepared in Morecambe, where he lives. And for every fight, you got to go into a camp. That means being away from your family. So, you know, that young man, he's still a young man, and he's got that big family. So I should imagine, take some time off, let these guys fight it out amongst each other, and come back in 18 months, 24 months time, and unify all the belts. After all, he's held all those belts, but not at the same time. So if he were to go away, those belts will be scattered, in my opinion, because I don't believe there's one boxer out there who's capable of unifying those belts. So those belts will be swapping hands regularly. Then Fury, what a way, come back in the 18, 24 months time, and provided he keeps himself well and don't abuse himself physically and mentally. And then, yeah, he's got them that. Remember, this guy is not marked up. This guy hasn't been in grueling fights. Yeah, the only grueling fights I could say he had that torrid time with Otto Walling, okay, where he sustained a couple of cuts. He still dealt with it. That's what winners do. Found their way to grind it out and win. And then he had that battle with Deontay Wilder, the first fight. Yeah, so really and truly, he's fresh. He hasn't been in grueling fights where he's been battered and hard fights. He hasn't, you know. So he can afford to take a bit of time off and then reflect and look at, you know how it is with boxers. They miss it so much. If he were to retire, like I said, for 18 months, he's going to miss it so much. And by public demand, he'll be back, by public demand.
Don, obviously, he's 33 now, closing in on 34. As you mentioned, you wouldn't mind seeing him take off maybe 1.5 to 2 years. But with Usyk AJ looking likely for late July, do you think he might just see that fight and he might get the hunger back, and that might be the thing which tempts him out to have the undisputed fight then? And if he was to be successful, he could very well then just sail off into the sunset on the back of a potential undisputed fight, say in December or November later this year.
Most definitely, because he hasn't officially said he's retired, has he?
No.
Right, so exactly. So you would be very interested.
We say this, we haven't had like an official announcement from the WBC or anything, but in his post-fight press conference after Dillian, he said that was going to be.
Yeah. But who's the current WBC heavyweight champion of the world? Tyson Fury is. Right. So what you alluded to a few seconds ago is that that's probably what will be happening. He'll be looking at the winner of that fight between Joshua and Usyk, and I believe Joshua is going to be victorious, and that would draw Fury out to say, you know what, let me unify this thing, then review things.
Just 2 more I want to squeeze out of you, Don, before I let you go. Just on Anthony Joshua, I don't know if you've seen or not, but there's been a video circulating of him recently over the last few days. He's had a bit of a few words exchanged with some students up in Loughborough. Have you seen the video? If so, just wanted to get your thoughts on it.
I haven't seen the video, but I've heard, in the gym, boxing gym, there's always talks. If people always, you don't even have to watch anything. And at my age, I don't really watch stuff unless I have to watch it. But in the gym, being in a boxing gym, that information would be spoken about within the gym environment. Yeah, I've heard about it. I haven't seen the video, but all I can say without actually seeing the video, even if I have seen the video, what people forget, the general public, we're all human beings and we're all got our own, how can I put it, emotions, yeah. Knowing Joshua how I know him, yeah, he's a gentleman, yeah. And unless you're in his shoes, can you then start to, I can't judge him, yeah. It depends. You don't know what he's going through. You don't know what he's feeling. You don't know what type of day he's having. Then these individuals, no matter how old they are, okay, shouting abuse at him. He's a human being. Joshua's a human being. Yes, I'm glad. I'm glad he did react. He didn't put his hands on them. He went up there to say, watch what you're saying, because it isn't right, where I come from originally, from Africa, yeah, even in this country many years ago, it used to happen. If underage people were misbehaving, or the senior, it's up to the senior to walk up to them and remind them to basically not be rude to their elders. Yeah, that's all he's done. He's gone up there to say, it so happens that we're talking about him. He's a human being, you very often see it in football when players are getting all the abuse from the stands. What, because people are paying money to watch you, does that give them the right to abuse you? I don't believe so. In this case, Anthony apparently was walking and these young men were shouting abuse at him. Does it really warrant that? No, I don't think it warrants that. And I'm glad he went up and said something to them. Somebody has to, if the parents are not raising these kids, yeah, the teachers at schools are not even allowed to discipline these young individuals. Even the policeman on the street is not allowed to reprimand people in the streets and correction. Who's going to do it? Who's going to do it? So I'm glad he did walk up to them. He wasn't violent. He verbally warned them to be mindful of what they are saying to him. So yeah, I backed up all day long.
And Don, just a final one. No boxing this weekend, but next weekend we have an undisputed title bout between George Kambosos and Devin Haney out in Australia. I just want to get your thoughts on it. What do you think is going to happen?
Ooh, that's almost like Richards and Buatsi. I was asked frequently to call a winner. Very difficult. I don't normally sit on the fence, but I'm gonna sit on the. It'll be a good fight, obviously. I'm gonna sit on the fence.
That's fair.
If I was to lean towards anybody, if I was to lean Haney, if I was to lean towards anybody, Haney.
I've got to just ask on that front. Obviously, Devin, he won't have his father in his corner or Ben Davison. He's going to have Yoel Judah in there, Zab Judah's father. Just want to get your thoughts. How much of a factor could it be not having his corner team, his father throughout his career, and Ben, who's been there for the last couple of fights? How significant could that be on the night?
Well, I'm also not aware of that information for a start. It depends. It really depends, After all, a fighter who's at that level, they need their trainers. They need the people who have their worked. Have they trained him for this? Who trained him for this fight?
His father trained him in Vegas.
Right. And his father is not in the corner. You're assuming
his father's not been able to travel. I think I'm not sure what the circumstances were. Just he wasn't permitted entry. Yeah,
he's Haney's experienced enough because these individuals. I'm a trainer also. When that bell rings, I don't get inside the ring to fight. When it's needed, if the fight's not going his way, then obviously whoever trained him for that fight there in the corner, you got 60 seconds to remind the fighter of what they should be doing. Yeah. You need your corner. You need your corner that trained you for the fight. But like I said, he's high enough level to be able to deal with situations. Okay. And it does. It makes a difference because I'd be contradicting myself if I said it did. I'm a trainer. The trainer is needed, but when the bell rings, the trainer is not inside that ring. The fighter has to take ownership and take charge. So Haney is good enough and experienced enough to be able to be able to have the fight successfully.
Right, Don, we will leave it there now. I'll leave you to get back to work and obviously go catch up with the guys in the gym. I appreciate you doing this. Have a good weekend and thank you for speaking to me on Boxing Social.
And yourself. Stay blessed.
Thank you, Don. Have a good weekend. See you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.